Hey guys, welcome to Back to Brilliance podcast. I'm your host and co-host Henry and Joseph. Say what's up, Joseph.
Hey, what's up?
Not much, bro. Thank you guys for being here today. We got another message for you guys. We got some good key topics to go over. So, what do we got on the list today, Joseph? Let them have it, bro.
Yeah, so I just want to start off strong and just talk about something that came up earlier this week for both of us. And it's the fear of starting because of personal beliefs, right? Maybe you're telling yourself, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, or, you're not ready, whatever the case may be.
Mm, good stuff right there, bro. Yeah, no, absolutely. We all hit that fear, there's an acronym for fear. It's called false evidence appearing real. Those are the things that we create in our minds, and that's kind of like one of the personal beliefs I think that really set us back and hold us from accomplishing and being successful, on doing the things that we want to do, and we'll go over that a little bit more in detail, what we're referring to in that, because it's not just one thing, it's multiple facets of things that take place in our life and a lot of things that kind of like hinder us, so with that, it we'll go into some of the points. So go ahead and give them a little breakdown, Joseph, of
Yeah,
some of those things.
yeah. So, like you mentioned before, like you feel like right now everyone is in a winter season, they're skeptical, they're not really sure what steps to take next, right? Like there's a lot of hesitancy, there's a lot of apprehension because as we keep saying, the world is changing right now. The landscape of the job market, of the job place, of just how you do work is changing. So there's a lot of uncertainty out there.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, and definitely. And that, that happens to all of us, whatever that may be. You can put the label on it, whether, the winter season, is coming because of your job, finances, relationships, whatever the case may be, So it's kind of like a, unsettling, eerie feeling, it's kind of like that cold winter, doom and gloomish feel, but we're here to tell you guys that, like we said before, the one constant is change. So this will not last forever. And, in this season and this time of your life, the best thing that you can do is to reassess, regroup, retrain, rebuild yourself in this time, in these winter seasons. That's what we do, is you have to find ways to keep pushing through. This podcast, we hope that that's what inspires you. There's many others out there. So you got to find the tools, right? We got to find the things that help us to inspire us, because in those times of season, sometimes you feel alone, and it's like you're not. That's the reality, is you're not. But it's just finding those communities, finding those people, having that, to help you to get through to the next step, so to speak.
Definitely. And having a group with you is immense. That is very
Hmm.
powerful. It's something that I honestly have taken for granted up until this year. And I recently had a call with a life coach, and he was saying that the people who he's talked to recently, a lot of them, they don't have anyone to talk to. They don't have anyone to like be on their level as far as what they're doing, right? If you don't have peers, if you don't have people doing what you're doing, or people what you're doing that are better than you, then it feels very lonely. You feel like you're on an island. You feel like you have nothing to give because you don't know what the day to day looks like. If you're not around like minded people, if you're not around people that can show you the way, then it will always feel unknown.
Right. No, and it definitely, so that's the key thing, guys, is to find a community, find a group. Joseph referenced this in our last podcast where he was talking about, whether it's a church group or an organization or somewhere, community, preferably, in person, if you can, because there's that connection where you're around people. But there is online communities as well. So yeah, definitely, I think we jump into, into those groups and help us, along the
Yeah,
journey.
yeah, definitely. And just to touch on this, but a lot of people, especially now, they feel like they don't know what they're doing. They feel like they don't have the right skills. They feel like they're not ready. They feel like they're gonna fail because, X, Y, and Z. So people are very scared to just start because, especially nowadays where it's like you either join the corporate ladder or you work for yourself. It's kind of either or, whether it's being a DoorDash driver to work for yourself or you join a corporate job. And just depending on yourself is very scary, but ultimately that's what will pay off more.
Right, right, right. No, definitely, bro. And it's the importance, when you're feeling like that, like you're not good enough, or that you don't have the right credentials type thing, right? So you got to get out there, um, you know, put yourself out there. I think that's one of the fears that we have is we don't put ourselves out there enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've really struggled with before is just putting myself out there, putting my name out there, letting people know that I exist and letting people know that I can do things for them. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about on the second episode, I believe, but where I was nervous to do cold calling. And now that I'm, about 100 in, I feel less afraid of it, but it's because I've put in the reps now,
Mm.
I'm still hesitant to, or like there's still a mental block there, but now more people know about me, and that feels good because now I'm putting in that effort.
Right. And I think a lot of times, not to stay in here so long, but one of the things that holds us back is kind of like imposter syndrome. I would say that's kind of like, I know it's a new term, but it comes in different formats, right? Like the imposter, like you can do the job, you're the right person for the job. You even whether you have the credentials that they say, and in quotes, they being whoever that is, but the thing is if you're the right person for the job and you can bring the solution, you know, then that's the win. But I think sometimes we just get caught up in our own minds, because it goes back to we think we're not enough.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And again, it goes back to the like feeling of not being ready, the
Right.
failure or the fear of failure. That is a big part of what stops people from doing things. It stops me a lot of the time, right? Like why try if I'm just gonna fail? That's a common phrase, and I've definitely had it before, but it's something that I've done recently that's really pulled me out is I do things before I even think about them.
Mm.
And so before I even let myself say like, "Ooh, I don't know about that," I just do it. And so there was a quote, I forgot who said it, but it basically goes along the lines of successful people are doing what other people are talking about doing.
Mm.
So in that, it's saying, successful people, they just do it and they do it and they don't think about it. They're just moving and grooving. Whereas other people, they're talking and planning and getting all their ducks in a row and all of that.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and there's also, as silly as this sounds, there is the fear of success because sometimes we don't know what's on the other side. So it's like we're creatures of habit, so we tend to fall into the pattern of familiarity. So sometimes it's like, oh, well, I've tried that, it didn't work. Did you give it enough time? That's the question. Did you give it enough time? So in everything, guys, you always have to, use a tracking system to see, what worked, because it's never failure, guys. The reality is it's never failure. It's just, I think it's Thomas Edison that said, they asked him a question. They said, how many times did you try to create, the light bulb? And he said 10,000 times. I said, so 10,000 times, you failed. He said, no, it took me 10,000 times to see the ways it didn't work, but it's that one time that
Mm,
makes it work, so stick with it, guys. The feeling, you remember, they're just feelings. So feelings are emotions, and they always change. Again, like the seasons, you might be happy today, sad tomorrow, joyful the next day, angry the next day. They're just feelings, so don't let them control you. Don't let them slow you down, because that's not a good thing. So let's get into our next thing, bro. We're talking about
yeah.
also knowing your limits.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that you need to know. You need to know your limits physically, mentally, and even in a way spiritually, right? Like, don't give your energy to things that you don't need to. But that's another topic. But basically, just like knowing when to say no. That's like the
Mm,
big one that you and I went through recently.
right,
But it's something that is something that I've had to learn within the past couple of years because I've always been not a yes man, but I've always been afraid to say no because I don't want to disappoint people.
right. No, definitely, bro. And knowing when to say no, it's knowing your limits, guys. You know what I mean? Like, we're all busy. We all have our lives. We all got things going on. So, sometimes we don't want to say no because we don't want to jeopardize the relationship, or we don't want to jeopardize, whatever the outcome is, right? So that fear that's tied to saying no, is that's just an indicator of, how you make decisions. So it's very important. Like, I keep harping on this over and over, because time is our greatest commodity. Or if you want to change that word and just call it currency, so that helps, reframe the way you think of things, because every time you take on other projects, take on things where that's taking up the time, that you can be using to build your business, to build yourself up and stuff like that, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, spreading yourself too thin is a real thing. We only have two hands, we only have 24 hours, but you have to be realistic with yourself when getting into stuff and like evaluate the cost of things, like evaluate how much time am I putting into this? How much of myself am I putting into this?
Right. Yeah. No, you always have to count the cost, guys. Anytime you're going to get into a project, anytime you're going to get into something, and that's kind of what holds us back, is we know that it's going to take time, right? So whatever it is, if it's a new skill that you're going to learn, we're so into that instant microwave, mentality, that instantaneous, I put in a day, I should already know this by now, that mentality doesn't work. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to put in the legwork and get in there, and do what's best. So all the time, count the cost, guys. Be realistic with yourself. So and just keep it moving, keep pushing. And things will work out. That I can promise.
Yes. I wanted to bring this up, but I forgot about it. But oftentimes, success is right before we want to give up,
Mm,
right? So whenever we're thinking about giving up, success is right on the other end of that. So if we just keep pushing and we and keep going with that, then we can be successful.
right. And let me. I read this in a book. About 7 Up. The company, the soda.
Mm, yeah.
So the key was, and it's always like this, right? So they named it 1 Up, 2 Up, 3 Up, 4 Up, 5 Up, 6 Up. Just didn't sound like it flowed. So this marketer came in, they took over the company, and they named it 7 Up, and here we are. So it's the
Mm,
thing is, it's like, iterations in life. You're going to continue. You're going to have these things that it seems like a fail. It seems like a fail. It seems like a fail, and then boom. So it almost seems like overnight success, but it isn't. When you go back and you hear from those people that built up these empires, you see that, like, oh, wow, they're 20, 30 years in. So
yeah.
stick with it, guys.
Yeah. And just to kind of wrap everything up about this topic, but we all have our limits, right? We have our physical limits, our mental limits, our patient limit, right? There's limits. Like
Mhm.
we need to know ourselves and we need to know how to work with ourselves. And that way we really know how to, how to maximize our efforts. Because if we're agreeing to a bunch of things, if we're hanging out with people that we don't want to hang out with, if we're doing a lot of things that we don't want to do, then we're working against ourselves. And you need to be true to what your limits are.
Right. Well said. Yeah. And in that, also celebrate your wins, guys. That's pretty important. A lot of times we don't because we look at them as small wins. It wasn't that significant. I didn't see a big impact. But in reality, it is. Every little step, step by step helps you, to build up. So definitely celebrate those wins, and that keeps you motivated, keeps you inspired, keeps you moving.
Yes. And to kind of piggyback off of that, and to pivot into our next topic, change comes from small efforts daily, right? You're not gonna gain weight, you're not gonna lose weight if you eat a massive amount or a little amount one day, or even if you're trying to study for something, right? You can't just like study for 5 hours one day and then you'll master it. You have to study for an hour a day, every day. You have to just be in love with the process, the daily process.
Very true. Well, yeah, and it's the habits that form us, our daily habits, So if you're stuck in a place right now or you're feeling, a certain way, it's because of the habits that you put in, 1, 2, 5, 10 years ago. And if they're not serving you, the great news is that you can change it.
Yes, yes, and that's something that I've really been focusing on right now. Just to bring up or mention some names, but Kevin Trudeau, he's all about that type of stuff. Same with, I was gonna say a bunch of other names, but Kevin Trudeau is like who I've been mainly listening to recently, and he talks all about that. He says, uh, habits are what form us as people, essentially, right? So if it's in our nature or if it's a habit to take out the trash every day, our house will never smell, right? Our house will never have trash in it.
True, true. No, it's true, bro. And that's the thing. Every day you got to be working toward, change because that's the one constant is change. So keep it moving, every day, bro. You got to move that needle, every day, brick by brick, to make change.
Yeah, and like you just said, brick by brick, right? There's no house that was just built in one day or in a week, right? Like it's through concerted effort, it's through continuous efforts. You have to just move that needle every day. Like I said, with weight loss or weight gain, right? You're not going to see the big picture until there's big transformations. But within that, there's daily habits, there's daily diet habits. There's daily things that you put into yourself to get big efforts or big gains.
Right. And that's what we're all looking for, guys, is results. We want to see things, so that we know we're on the right path. That helps us, on our journey, so to speak.
Yeah, and change is a journey. Change is a process, right? Like this change of the seasons, that's a whole process. That's not just a quick thing, right? It takes 3 months to do so. And so, like how Henry said at the very beginning, this is a winter, like we're kind of in a winter season right now. So make that change now so that you're able to reap the rewards of your efforts down like later on in the year, right? And so just loving the journey, loving the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And the process is not always easy, guys, right? You're going to have bumps in the road during this process. Your trajectory or your roadmap is taking you one way because that's what you're setting out, but all the obstacles are going to come in and try to divert you, but it's staying focused, so that always comes back to the habits, the daily habits that we put in place that serve us, to get us to where we want to be. So it is a journey. It is a process, and you're going to learn from it. Just like you say, putting these tools and things in place are very important. On the last episode, Joseph talked about journaling, right? And that's a habit right there. When you create that habit, it serves you. When you fall off, you're able to gauge and see like, oh man, I didn't journal today, and then you can see the results. So just little
Hmm.
things like that, really help.
Yes. Yeah. And just to touch back on what you just said, change if you're doing the right things, right? If you have the good habits, even if you don't stick with them, right? Change is not linear. It's not left to right. It's more diagonal, right? It's more up and to the right. However, it's not linear as well. So it's going to be going up and down because not everything is always positive or always negative. But if you're putting in the effort and if you're putting in the work, that arrow will still be going upwards. Right? It will still be trending upwards, but it could be going up and down. It might be a squiggly line, but that squiggly line will still be going up.
Right, right. And it's something you can track. So when you look back, that's how we always connect the dots, right? You don't see it when you're going through it, but when you look back, then you can see, oh man, this served me or this didn't serve me. So, always taking inventory, always being mindful, that's, part of the process, and at the end, celebrate your wins, guys.
Yes, always, always do that. Even the smallest win, right? Hey, I showered today. Hey, I cooked my meal today. Hey, I woke up today. That is a very easy thing to be happy about.
Right. Yeah, and I think like sometimes we just look at it, it's a job, but look at it from this perspective. I get to. I get to cook this.
Hmm.
I get to do these things. I get to drive this vehicle. I get to be in this home. I get to do these things. So it just changes your mindset. Nothing else changed except the way your perspective and the way you see things. And that helps you along your journey.
Yes, and just to very quickly talk about something that I heard recently. This is a good habit to try to form, and I've been trying to pick it up whenever because we all get into our groove, right? We all get into just like the daily habits that we have. Write with your left hand what you want in that day, right? Like write with your non-dominant hand what you want to happen that day. That way your brain feels uncomfortable and you're really thinking about it. Also, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to write with your left hand or non-dominant hand, brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand in the morning.
Right. Yeah. And all you're doing is disrupting patterns,
Yep.
from your daily habits. You know what I mean? So those little two tips that he just gave right there are very powerful and influential in your life. You might not see it as that, but it's because again, we're creatures of habit. So it's like this because I've always done it like this. So just that
Hmm.
little, test right there, trying to write with your opposite hand, trying to brush your teeth with the opposite hand. Those are just simple little tests and, try it for 7 days, and if it does, if you don't see anything change, anything, what did you lose? Nothing. You still brushed your teeth. You still wrote things out, right? So it's like,
Exactly.
mission accomplished. And it's just like, okay, cool. But we do have to sometimes disrupt the patterns.
Hmm. Definitely.
All right. What else we got, bro?
I think that's good. I think
Yeah.
we're good for today. I think we've covered a lot of good things because, this is a very important topic that I see every day almost, right?
Yes.
So I just want to let this sit.
Okay, yeah, good stuff, bro. And again, guys, reach out, to us. We appreciate you guys. We hope that our message, helps you, inspires you, as we continue our journey. We're going to share, what we're going through and stuff like that. And hopefully our experiences, whether you're experiencing it now or in the future, you can always revert back because this will live on the internet forever. It's evergreen, so you can always come back to it. That's the one thing in seasons. You might not be in this season. You might be in a different season. So it's like, but eventually we all go through these type of things. So
Hmm.
With that said, guys, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to our Back to Brilliance podcast. We thank you for listening. We ask that you subscribe, leave a message, a comment, a rating, review. It helps great people like you to find our podcast. And with that, we say thank you and we're out. Have a blessed day.
Bye bye.